This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes, creators of the world's best repair manuals. Fix your car or truck the right way with our accurate and reliable information at your side. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Drive axle replacement. Open the driver's side door and pull the hood release lever located by the kick panel. Pull the hood safety latch forward, then raise the hood. Grasp the front of the cover and lift the cover up until the grommets in the cover are free of the ball studs. Then lift the rear of the cover until the grommets in the rear are free of their ball studs. Apply the parking brake. Chock the rear wheels to prevent the vehicle from rolling. Loosen the front wheel lug nuts. Place a floor jack under one side of the vehicle, positioning it under the reinforced frame area, then raise the front of the vehicle. Support it with a jack stand placed under the notched area of the rocker panel seam. Then lower the vehicle onto the jack stand and remove the jack. If raising both sides of the vehicle, move the floor jack to the opposite side and place it under the reinforced frame area on that side. Raise the front of the vehicle, then place a second jack stand under the notched area on that rocker panel seam and lower the floor jack. When raising both sides of the vehicle, make sure the vehicle is level. Remove the front wheel lug nuts and remove the wheel. Loosen all of the screws around the under engine cover, both front and rear. Then, working from one to another, remove the fasteners and lower the under engine cover from the vehicle. Unstake the drive axle hub nut using a small chisel and hammer. Prevent the hub from turning by having an assistant apply the brakes or by inserting a punch into the brake disc cooling vane, then loosen and remove the drive axle hub nut with a breaker bar and socket. A cheater pipe may be required to give you enough leverage to loosen the nut. Counterhold the ball joint stud and loosen the ball joint nut a few turns, but don't remove it. Install a ball joint separator tool and break the ball joint loose from the steering knuckle, then remove the ball joint nut. Use a pry bar to push the lower control arm downwards until the ball joint can be separated from the steering knuckle. If the drive axle won't move out of the hub, use a punch and hammer to drive the drive axle inward and separate it from the hub. Swing the knuckle hub assembly out away from the vehicle while pulling the drive axle out from the hub. Use a length of rope or wire to secure the outer end of the drive axle to avoid unnecessary strain on the inner CV joint. When removing the left side drive axle or right side drive axle on models without an intermediate shaft, place a clean drain pan under the inner CV joint, then pry the inner CV joint out of the transaxle using a large screwdriver or pry bar positioned between the transaxle and the CV joint housing. Be careful not to damage the differential seal and measure any amount of fluid that may come out once the CV joint is removed. When removing the right side drive axle on models with an intermediate shaft, remove the intermediate shaft support bolts, then remove the drive axle along with the intermediate shaft. Be careful not to damage the differential seal and measure any amount of fluid that may come out once the CV joint is removed. Remove the wire securing the outer end of the drive axle and carefully pull the drive axle out of the transaxle and vehicle. Lubricate the drive axle or intermediate shaft seal with multi-purpose grease. Clean the end of the drive axle and inspect the spring clip. If the clip is damaged, pry the old spring clip from the inner end of the drive axle and install a new one using reverse snap ring pliers. Lubricate the inner end of the drive axle with multi-purpose grease. Position the spring clip with the opening facing down. This will ease insertion of the drive axle and prevent damage to the clip. Push the end of the inner CV joint into the differential side gear and make sure the spring clip locks into its groove. Then secure the outer end of the drive axle with rope to avoid unnecessary strain on the inner CV joint. Check that the spring clip has engaged by tugging outward on the inboard CV joint housing. On right side drive axles for models with an intermediate shaft, slide the intermediate shaft into the transaxle and install the intermediate shaft support bolts, then tighten the bolts to the specified torque setting. Apply a light coat of multi-purpose grease to the outer CV joint splines. Remove the rope securing the CV joint outer end, then pull out on the steering knuckle assembly and install the stub axle into the hub. Pry downward on the lower control arm and reconnect the control arm to the steering knuckle. Install a new ball joint nut. Counterhold the ball joint stud with a torque socket wrench and tighten the ball joint nut to the specified torque setting in this two-step process. Install a new drive axle hub nut. Have an assistant apply the brakes or insert a punch into the disc cooling vanes to keep the drive axle from turning, then tighten the drive axle hub nut to the specified torque setting. Remove the punch from the brake disc vanes if used. Stake both sides of the drive axle hub nut using a small punch and a hammer. Measure the amount of transaxle fluid lost, if any, and refill following these steps. Working through the left front wheel well, remove the check fill plug from rear of the transaxle. Insert a hand pump tube into the check fill plug opening and pump the new fluid equal to the amount drained into the transaxle. Remove the fill tube. Install the check fill plug and tighten it to the specified torque setting. Place the under-engine cover onto the vehicle and align the fastener openings. Then install the screws and tighten them securely. Install the wheel and lug nuts and hand tighten the nuts. Raise one side of the vehicle at a time, then remove the jack stand and lower that side to the ground. Then raise the other side of the vehicle and remove that jack stand. Tighten the wheel lug nuts to the specified torque setting. Remove the chock from the rear wheels. Locate the 4 ball studs on the engine and the 4 grommets on the cover. Place the engine cover on the engine, aligning the grommets with the ball studs. Once they are all aligned, push the cover down until the grommets lock into place on the ball studs. Close the hood.